it was like a real moment of recognizing that the truth of that, seeing that I'm not this voice in my head. And the moment I could see that, it was like the whole identity that was based on my thoughts suddenly just fell apart. And it was blissful, at the same time devastating, because everything I believed myself to be was suddenly being questioned, and I could see it wasn't really true. So there was an identity crisis.
Oh, absolutely. Complete destruction of everything you thought was real, which can be quite challenging.
Yeah. But at the same time, it was very blissful, because I could recognize just that truth of who I really am.
Yes.
That underlying presence, awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Now, you've got a very unique way of teaching this, haven't you?
Yeah, it actually was born out of my whole directing experience in the theater.
Okay.
So this is where I kind of discovered that all the acting exercises are really about being present in the moment. And many actors, they kind of do the exercises, but they're not really aware of what is happening in terms of them becoming fully present. And for me, the connection between mindfulness and theater acting was just like, it was so obvious.
Yes.
And then I just got inspired to create a workshop where I would blend the two worlds together. And I think this is what's really fun and fascinating for people, because people come to the workshop and they don't really expect, they don't know what to expect. And the exercises are not typical mindfulness exercises.
No.
So, but they're just great in that context.
Yes, mindfulness exercises. But the exercises themselves aren't mindfulness, are they? It's the state of being to which they point. And if you can access that state of being, then the techniques are no longer necessary.
Yeah.
And in many ways, an obstacle.
Yeah.
Which is why your work appeals to me so much, because it's directly there, isn't it? There's no obstacles.
It's a direct path. And it requires really actually nothing. If we really go deeper into the word sharing presence, that's it. We're just here to share presence.
Would you mind explaining what you do? I don't think I could.
Yeah. What do I do? Well, I think if I have to make it very simple, my intention is to invite people to share presence. That's really it. And what that means is to be together in a state of awareness where we are consciously experiencing that and sharing that experience. So for me, the word sharing is quite important here, because we're always sharing all sorts of aspects of ourselves. And the greatest thing we share is our thoughts and our feelings. And this is always dominating in our conversations with people. That's where the whole focus is directed to. So when we begin to share presence intentionally and consciously, then we're shifting the focus of our sharing just to the presence. And when we do that, then we suddenly realize that all those thoughts and emotions we're usually sharing are not really that important. And then suddenly this deeper sharing that is also happening always, because we're always sharing our presence, whether we're aware of it or not.
Best we are aware of it, eh?
Yeah. When we become aware of it and consciously share it, it just like that experience becomes, it's hard to explain what that experience becomes, because it's just beyond words.
Absolutely, and that's the challenge in conveying this, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you point people to something beyond all understanding? Because that can't be experienced through understanding. And that's the challenge in teaching for me, is that the egoic mind seeks to understand, and in that understanding loses the essence of the presence that we're pointing towards. So
Yeah.
so in my mind, the way that you work is the only way that it can work. That this can only be experienced directly,
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
and never grasped.
And
Yeah,
my
yeah.
focus is really on the aspect of two people coming together to experience this together.
Okay.
So this is really what I'm focusing on. I think there's a lot of mindfulness practices that really focus on you, yourself. But I always found it actually easier to be present with someone else than actually with myself.
Yes,
And that more challenging.
because when you are being present with someone else, you are being present with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, for me, it's a very natural experience. It's much easier than being present with my own thoughts or whatever is going on inside me. So I find that more challenging.
So how did this come to you?
Well, it all started with a book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's where I would say things were initiated. When I read that book, I experienced a real awakening moment, you could say. Really the recognition that I am not my thoughts and that I'm not this voice in my head. It's a simple idea, but I honestly never came across it.
Well, you wouldn't, because you were lost in your thoughts.
Yeah. And no one ever told me that.
Well, they wouldn't, because they're lost in their thoughts too.
Yeah. And in that, it was like a real moment of recognizing that the truth of that, seeing that I'm not this voice in my head. And the moment I could see that, it was like the whole identity that was based on my thoughts suddenly just fell apart. And it was blissful, at the same time devastating, because everything I believed myself to be was suddenly being questioned, and I could see it wasn't really true. So there was an identity crisis.
Oh, absolutely. Complete destruction of everything you thought was real, which can be quite challenging.
Yeah. But at the same time, it was very blissful, because I could recognize just that truth of who I really am.
Yes.
That underlying presence, awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Did that ever leave you, or has that been consistent ever since?
I think it left me quite quickly, in the sense of that I quickly developed a new identity, the spiritual ego, I call it. So I became very identified with this spiritual image of myself, which was again just a new idea of myself.
I shared that mistake on a few occasions.
Yeah.
I think we're in big trouble, aren't we?
And it can get quite boosted if you're with other people who are also into spiritual conversations. You can like
you
you're
get
boosting each
other
other's
people
ego.
telling you you're something, you might end up believing it.
Yeah.
And it can sneak in at any time. We have to be particularly alert to that, which is another thing I like about your work. You don't claim ownership of any of it.
No. But I would say that the recognition that I am ultimately this aware presence has never left me. It is something that has always stayed very close to me. So if I do lose myself, it is not for long. I always come back to that deeper truth. Has this been an evolving journey for you, or is it like Eckhart Tolle suddenly peeing on here and job done? I think it's a lifetime journey. For at least it's for me, it will be.
Well, that's been my experience, and certainly the experience of people I work with. It is a lifetime journey, isn't it? It's a gradual unfolding and a disintegration of that person you thought you were, that sense of egoic sense of self.
Yeah. I also think we're living in a conditioned environment that isn't conscious. So that is for the great challenge, that we are constantly pulled into this unconscious patterns. And if we're not aware of that, it can happen so quickly, and it happens all the time. So
well, my sense is that our state of being, our presence, creates reality. Yeah, and if we said earlier, our presence creates reality, whether we're conscious of it or not. And if we're unconscious, then we're kind of destined to create a dystopian dark reality. We manifest it with our own unconsciousness, our own energetic projection.
Yeah.
And our challenge, as you say, is to heal that trauma in ourselves, and in so doing, project something else, a higher level, another level of presence into the world, which is reflected back. And that's what we're doing. Ultimately changing the world from inside out. One act of presence at a time. With each person we greet in that state of being, that shifts reality.
So if I may ask, what has brought you into this entire field?
Well, I came via the most common route, which is mental illness.
Right.
A history of addiction and depression and anxiety disorders, and I suppose ultimately just something cracked. Something cracked, and then this process started. I had a profound awakening experience in 2000, year 2000, which kind of shook things up a bit. I'm in no enlightened master, I can assure you, but as you know, you don't come back from an experience like that the same, do you? I mean, and it changes everything. And I suppose really since then, like you, my life hasn't been its own. It hasn't been my own. My ego gave up on my life a very long time ago because actually it wasn't making a great job of it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of flowed with now. Eckhart Tolle's book had a huge impact on me, but my realization came before that. I can remember wandering around going, how do people not realize that now is all there is? And what is going on? They're all living in a dream. And it was, I thought it was part of my mental illness until I found that book.
Yeah.
But I'm more interested in you. Tell me about your journey. How have you arrived where you are?
I'm not sure where I am right now. You know, you ask where I've arrived. Well, last year when I received the cancer diagnosis, that was quite a turning point for me in terms of arriving at a certain place in my life where I understood that, well, the chances of me dying were quite high. And that just brought me into this place of really wanting to enjoy every day and not knowing that I may not have so much time. That knowing itself just changed everything for me. Suddenly the things that I used to make so important just lost their meaning and their importance. And I just became more grounded in what really matters right now, and being more appreciative of just the simple things that before just, I remember coming back from the hospital after weeks and weeks and just being at home, just being free to do whatever you want at the time that you want. I mean, it's that simple, but when you're suddenly removed from that freedom, it just, so that was for me, all these simple things that have been really awakening me in the last year. And just even now being here again, feeling more healthy.
Yeah. Well, you look well.
I look better than since a long time. Yes.
I was trying to guess how old you are, actually. I don't know. Well, are you like Eckhart Tolle, actually? You look 25, but you're really 72. Is that what's going on here?
I always say my body is 36. So
36.
I feel my soul is much, much older. It feels older.
Yeah.
It always felt older.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. But really very young to have these kind of realizations. Um,
Yeah, when I started running the workshops, I was 21.
wow.
So I was often the youngest in the
God,
space.
you hadn't suffered anywhere near enough.
Sorry? Oh, no, I didn't have that painful,
yeah,
yeah, traumatic
yeah,
childhood as some people have. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think that's yeah. This is the time now where, yeah, and it's wonderful to see sort of young people like yourself leading the way, because
yeah,
there is an awakening happening,
yeah,
and I'm certainly seeing so many younger people at my retreats now,
yeah,
18, 19, 20, and the awareness of these kids, you go, whoa.
yeah.
Um, they're leading the way. It
I
is
mean,
happening.
I
It is
feel
happening.
there, sorry,
It is happening. This shift is happening.
there is a shift happening. I'm not sure if it's going the direction that we may want.
Mm, mm, mm.
At the moment, it feels more like it's going into a darker space.
Well, I'm very confident. I mean, I get what you're saying about a darker space, and if we
Yeah,
haven't seen the insanity of the ego more clearly the last 2.5 years,
yeah,
I mean, when all that madness started, I was just, what the hell's going on? And what are these people scared of? You know, this is just in their heads.
yeah,
That's where the virus is. It's in people's heads,
yeah,
and even intelligent people. I'm trying to show them, and they're going, "Nah, you're mad."
yeah,
Yeah, okay. It was a great revealer, wasn't it? You know, it did reveal, you know, dark shadows of people's egos who were quite happy to persecute their neighbors because they didn't want a medical intervention. And
yeah,
you know, the bullying and the cruelty, it was a dark time. But some wonderful stuff came out of it too. Well, and you know, this is because there's always two sides to this, isn't there?
yeah,
And I was heavily involved in the freedom movement throughout this, really trying to bring some kind of conscious awareness to what was going on. And what I found was there was a really high level of kind of spiritual awareness amongst these people. They weren't
yeah,
your regular activists,
yeah,
angry and wanted to tear down systems. These were awake people, spiritually awake people,
yeah,
who when we started to sense the darkness. I sensed the darkness long before I had any evidence. Yeah,
I think both.
long before I had any evidence to support what I was sensing. I mean, the evidence was there to find and is becoming more and more conclusive, but
Mm,
we just knew, didn't we? We just felt it. That's this awakening happening.
mm,
And this has to happen. It has to happen. And that egoic state of consciousness, it can't exist anymore in the new vibrational field to which we're moving.
mm,
It can't exist in that field.
yeah,
So it has to be shaken to the surface individually through this process of awakening, but collectively in the falling away of those structures,
yeah,
mental structures, physical structures. So I'm really excited. My sense is exactly what needs to happen because it is
yeah,
happening, you know,
yeah,
and how the world emerges from this depends upon the state of consciousness of the architects behind that new world, and that's ultimately what we are here to do. It's what you're here to do. It's what I'm here to do. What everybody going through this awakening process is here to do.
yeah.
And we have agents embedded in the system everywhere.
That's
Conscious
true.
conscious bankers, conscious teachers, conscious doctors,
Mm,
conscious lawyers, and they're everywhere and they're waking up. And if they haven't started already, will shake the foundations of this mindset. I just go sit back and get me popcorn and then enjoy the show unfold. But it has been dark. It has been dark. But the light is returning. The fear is going.
Yeah, we'll see what comes next.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel
I,
something's around the corner, so
yeah, it can't be stopped.
yeah.
It can't be stopped. We're dealing with vibrational shifts in the cosmos here. Well, we all attach our little personal egoic spin to it, don't we? But this is a vibrational shift in the cosmos. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And as desperate as the old mindset, the old consciousness is trying to shut down this awakening, the more they wake people up.
Yeah.
They set out to instigate a great reset, and they've triggered a great awakening. Silly Billy. And what a time to be alive, eh?
Yeah.
Well, aren't we privileged? Aren't we privileged to be here and doing this work at this time? What a blessing that is. Eh? Anyway, sorry, I've taken over. I don't want to hear about me. I want to hear about you. Tell me about your course, your course and your book.
Right. So my Sharing Presence book is basically a guide for people to practice this in their own life with a lover, a child, their family, or friends. So it offers a variety of exercises that you can
I'll put it back.
take.
Sorry, carry on. No,
Yeah.
mess it up.
So you can take the book and then open an exercise, and then basically I'm inviting people to really go and practice this with a person. So invite someone to share presence. That's where I'm trying to get people to do. And the whole book is basically guiding people into that experience. And the beauty is with the online course that once you read the exercise, you have the opportunity to actually go to the online course and then watch the exercise being demonstrated by 15 different pairs of people, which I find really useful in a spiritual book, because often you see the exercise, it's like theoretical there, but you don't really get that notion of it, or you don't really necessarily recognize how powerful it is. So in the online course, you can basically experience it and witness it, and just even without doing it, you get the whole experience already.
Because the experience is in the sharing of the presence.
Yeah.
Even if you're just watching the video,
Yeah.
you're experiencing the sharing of the presence.
Yeah. You're naturally invited into that space.
Mm.
And it's beautiful because there are very different people participating in this course and not necessarily have ever done any mindfulness practice. So it's beautiful to see them just dive into it and still experience the same power and effect and that presence, whether they recognize it or not, but you can see it. You can see that they're feeling it. And that's the beauty. So the book and the online course are sort of companions. They're serving each other. And yeah, and it took me 13 years to create this book and the course. So it was a really long time.
Yeah.
Really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's evolved along the way, I'm sure.
Yes, I've grown. So the book has grown over the years, and
Yes.
I really allowed myself. I took all the time I needed to really develop the ideas. And I think the greatest challenge was, how do I convey the concept of sharing presence?
Well,
How do I bring it into an experience?
Yeah, because you can't. It's not a concept. It is an experience, and so it can only be done that way. And I think the way you do it is quite. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I'd recommend everybody to explore your work.
Thank you. It's ultimately a practice. So I'm not someone who necessarily, I don't feel called to be there as the teacher in the sense of standing somewhere and talking all day. That's just not my role. So I'm more here to really invite people into that experience and give them that direct knowing that I think is the best, most effective way.
The only way, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow, buzzing now.
And it's very challenging. This is the challenge I'm facing. It is so intimate that a lot of people are afraid to enter that space of presence with another person.
Well, it's going to bring up fear.
Yeah.
It's going to bring up all sorts of stuff. But I mean, the ego is not going to want to look at that.
The ego doesn't want this.
Oh no, 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 no.
No, it can find beautiful excuses why it's not a good time to practice now this. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, shimmering now. I've got to compose myself before I float off. It has been important to stay grounded. We did a retreat this weekend, which I mean, they're just becoming more and more powerful. And it takes me a couple of days really to just to ground myself afterwards. It's are you sensing an increasing intensity
In what way?
in the vibrational field in the awakening process?
I don't feel it so much, to be honest.
What are you feeling?
I don't feel that awakening. That I haven't been feeling that much, to be honest.
Okay.
Not so much.
Well, what's
More the
your
opposite?
what's your picture? What are you getting?
I just see more and more unawareness happening in people's behavior and in all sorts of places. That's what I'm seeing, at least in the public. But I've also been living very isolated the last 2 years, especially because of cancer too. So I don't think I have a good judgment on. My judgment is based on what I see in the news in those places.
Yeah, stay away from that.
Which is already very unconscious.
That's going to lower your vibration.
I think when you're in that space with other people in the workshops, you're already with like-minded people who are already participating in that space.
Yeah. Maybe I'm getting a picture from a small population sample.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly sensing this amongst the people I'm in contact with. Yeah, there is a proportion of people becoming more and more unconscious. I mean, but that's like kind of polarity happening.
That's
But the more unconscious they become, the more they suffer. The more suffering they create, and the more push to awakening. You see, I came to this via the suffering route, and most of the people I work with came to this via the suffering route. So maybe my experience of suffering, well, I've experience of suffering itself, but my experience of that as a catalyst to awakening. I'm seeing an awful lot of people now suffering to the point of breaking free. A questioning. People have never questioned anything before, are now questioning whether their government serves them, questioning whether all medicine is good for them, questioning whether, well, the reality they thought was true is true.
Yeah.
And that to me is this awareness emerging. Not yet made much sign of it in terms of conscious behavior. Or even really much in the way of a conscious projection, but that questioning is happening. And also, I mean, I think it's interesting that more than half the people didn't go back for their booster. Now, these are people that clearly didn't question a year ago. They're questioning now.
Yeah.
People are questioning the news.
I still feel it's not okay to question the whole vaccine itself. I still feel it's not really okay to do that.
Okay.
If you do that, and then you're automatically labeled into certain boxes.
Absolutely.
And at least I don't see it happening in the press so much.
Not yet. It was very difficult. No, you've got to see it in the press, are you? Because that's part of the egoic control system.
Yeah.
If we're living through the ego, we are controlled completely by our program perception. We think that's reality. We act well. We've seen ample evidence over that the last 2 years, haven't we? Intelligent people doing the most ridiculous things because without any question, just operating according to a program they've been delivered. And that's through the education systems, through their conditioning growing up, and through, not at least in part, through media and psychological manipulation. And that is how humanity has been possessed and controlled for thousands of years. My grandfather, I found a picture of him the other day. It looks just like my son. 17 years of age, going off to fight in the trenches of the First World War. Him and all his bloody mates walked into machine gun bullets. In the name of a king that cared so little about them, he's prepared to slaughter them in their millions for a few feet of Belgian mud. But they didn't question that. They just did it. I think you'd have a job pulling that off now. And what I'm seeing is a great deal of questioning. I see a great deal of confusion coming from that questioning. And a certain amount of madness coming from that confusion. But that questioning for me is the very start. So that's why I'm confident. Because I'm not seeing, I know, like you, I'm not seeing much evidence of that presence in the world around us. What I am seeing is that suffering creating a questioning, and that's when the system comes down. In my work in the freedom movement, I've met some remarkable young people, brave, awake, creative, resourceful, incredible young people who are kind of are coming to the fore. There's no leaders as such, because this is an individual, personal awakening. The way I see it, it's turning that Gate pyramid on its head. Instead of one technocrat controlling every minute detail of everybody's lives. This is what you're doing. You're taking personal responsibility for yourself. You're taking personal responsibility for your presence, for your state of being. You take personal responsibility for your health, for your well-being, for your life. And that, and then after that comes family and friends, and then the community, and then the country, and then so it's bottom up, this change. This is not one technocrat deciding what's best for everybody. This is a individual awakening, because you affect people, they affect people, and so it changes. Actually turning that Goat pyramid right on its head. And we're seeing how to right in front of our eyes. We're not out of the woods yet.
So I would like to know what your core intention is that is driving you to, to do what you do.
I haven't got, well, Jason, you haven't got any choice, have you? You haven't got any choice in this. But I've tried to interfere in the process many times, and it hasn't ended well. We've got no choice. This is the work. And we have to do it, and we love doing it. Because it's us. And we couldn't do anything else. Somebody once asked me, what would you do if you had all the money that you needed, you never have to work again? What would you do? I'd do what I'm doing now, wouldn't I? What else would I do? And you're the same, aren't you?
It's a deeper calling. It's whether you surrender to it or not, and really go into the devotion of it or not.
And if you don't, you'll suffer so much. You have to. I've tried ignoring it many times.
It keeps calling back.
Oh, it does. It'll kick you back if you don't listen. Consciousness doesn't really care much for our egoic will, which is just as well. I mean, I've probably got the added advantage to you that my ego was really trying to kill me. I was trying to get me drink myself to death. Towards the end, it was telling me to jump under trains. I mean, that ain't right, is it? You can't trust it. But for a lot of people, it's not that extreme, and their ego can be a little bit more seductive. Oh dear, you feel that? Just a pause for a moment. I'm sensing this is a time to bring people together.
Yeah.
For this greater calling. There's an awful lot of people who are going to need this, because the suffering is going, I suspect, going to become incredibly intense. We haven't begun to see the fallout from the damage that's already been done yet. And that shaking out is happening, going to happen anyway. It's how we deal with that that's important, and how we respond to that, because we are the architects of reality. We are the creators, and we have to regain conscious control of that, bring presence into normal human consciousness, and wow, there's no limit to the possibilities, is there? One of my regular clients, that's a one-to-ones with, I mean, she's a incredibly bright woman, PhD, psychologist, which is interesting that she's so into this work, because it's almost like the antithesis of her study, but she's fascinated by presence. And I was saying to her, you know, a great mind like that, and she really has got an exceptional intellectual mind. A mind like that, free of ego, free of limitation, free of perception, free of what's been before, free of her own academic rules, free of her own understanding. You're unleashing an incredible mind there, aren't you? And you only need a few minds like that to bring about a sea change.
Yeah.
And I think it is happening. I think it is happening.
Yeah.
Little places, little bits here and there.
Yeah.
But you can't put this back in the bowl.
Yeah.
So the ego has a flaw in its design. Ultimately, it creates so much suffering. You have to break free. But challenging times. The work like yours will be invaluable for people to navigate their way through this.
Yeah. I feel the power of human connection I always feel is the doorway into healing, if we can find ways to connect on a deeper level. And even on social media, I'm spending quite a lot of time there now, just trying to understand the whole, trying to reach people through those platforms. And it's very interesting just to see what's going on there, and what type of posts and videos get a lot of likes. It reflects a lot the human consciousness.
It does, and maybe that's not the best place for you.
Well, it's a place where a lot of people are spending their time.
It is unconscious. People spend their time. Anyway, this is.
How do you reach these people? That's the question.
Do you know they'll reach you? Well, I'm gonna help. I'm gonna put this out for you and whatever. but you didn't ask for this, did you?
No.
You didn't plan this.
No.
You didn't go looking for this, did you? No. Your vibration attracted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think it's certainly what I've observed happening. It's very difficult to penetrate that dark unconsciousness, and personally, I can't bear social media. People say you should do it. I know, but it makes me do this.
Well, I see it like this. I mean, it's not, as you said, not trying to reach people, but being there in that space where people can see you or become aware of you and get a chance to become invited into a different perception.
No, I get that.
Yeah, I think that is important.
No, it is important.
Yeah.
but maybe we could look at other ways of raising awareness too.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a collaboration forming. People are going to want this.
Yeah.
Now you're just too far ahead of your time, Jason. Somebody once told me, if you're one step ahead of the game, they call you a genius. If you're 2 steps ahead of the game, they call you a lunatic.
That's
Yeah, well,
good.
us lunatics are starting to look quite smart, right?
Yeah.
Which means that other people are catching up.
Yeah.
And my sense is, and I spent a lot of time trying to penetrate the darkness, a lot of energy and the rest of it, and I really come to the conclusion that just be light and see what happens, and doors open and possibilities arise that you couldn't make happen.
Yeah.
You couldn't, because not because you're chasing it, not because you're looking for it, because of it's coming to you.
Yeah.
And that's where the most interesting possibilities arise.
Yeah.
Are you based in London?
I'm in London, and the last year I've spent a lot of time in Germany because of my treatment with the cancer. Yeah. Yeah.
But you live in London, is that where you are?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we should hook up, because
Yes.
I'm sensing that there's possibilities.
Yes, that'd be nice.
Because I love your work, and I get it, and I do get it. I feel it, and what we could do to help each
Well, we
other.
can collaborate. We can do
Well, I
something
think
together.
this is the example of that greater mind that we were talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a little festival idea in my head. I'm boiling over. We'll see. It's emerging. Let's see what's coming. A little conscious festival.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a lovely place to express your work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And for how long have you been doing the podcast already?
I think you're my 4th one.
All right. Okay. So
we did one with a guy that I've worked with many years about ayahuasca and psychedelics and spirituality. The other one was with a very good and a very present psychotherapist, like the real deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's operating on this, doing the presence healing, and the words are secondary. He had to turn up for one of my courses. He's as soon as he walked in, I could feel it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did one. It was really interesting on sort of presence in psychotherapy. The one with Steve, who I work with. So you're the 4th one.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But we'll see what emerges, because I've had a few other people come into my orbit lately that it's really interesting expressions of presence, and it's all about how because what appeals to you. Like I say, I mean, it's pretty intense stuff, isn't it? That's hardcore. You go to experience it on that depth, and that's personally, that's my style. You just chuck them in, and experience it fully. But other people have certain sort of more subtle approaches through dance and music and sound and this kind of thing. So an idea is emerging to me to put together a festival.
Okay.
And introduce people to lots of different experiences.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm here.
See what emerges. Yeah.
I am here.
You're always here,
I'm
Jason.
available. Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to explore in particular while we're here?
I'm just really grateful to be here with you, actually.
Yeah, me too. So thank you.
I was touched when you I've noticed your on YouTube as well. Many years ago, I've also been aware of you too. Yeah, and always resonated, even with when you called it the Now Project. I just thought that was the perfect name. And so yes, it was nice that we have finally come together.
We're all part of the Now Project.
Yeah,
see, exactly. That's what I tell people when they come my class and retreat. They're the project.
Yeah.
The project is the awakening.
Yeah.
There's no one individual.
Yeah.
That is no individuals.
Yeah.
So where do people get a hold of your book and course and such like?
Yes, my book is available via my website or on Amazon, so you can purchase it anywhere. And the online course is also available on my website. It's sharingpresence.org.
If you send me the links, I shall stick them
Yeah,
at the bottom of the video and such
of
like.
course, I'll send you.
So people can find them.
Yeah.
But
And where will you be sharing this?
I've got to sit down and edit it at some point. Not that it needs
Oh,
much editing. Probably early part next week.
okay, great.
Lovely.
Yeah. Well, if you want, I can also share on my channels if you want me to
Yes,
share.
please. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's collaborate on this. Let's do it.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe we could hook up when you're in London for a cup of coffee.
definitely.
To share
Yeah.
some presents.
Yes.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much for
Okay.
this.
Take care then.
All the
Yeah.
best.
To you too.
I'll speak to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye.